Hello there, it's midnight. I'm Anita and you're watching Nightline. The top stories. Tan Sri Muhyiddin summoned by MACC on Thursday. And government to stop channeling subsidies to industries. Our headlining story. Perikatan Nasional Chairman Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin on Wednesday confirmed that he had been summoned by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, on Thursday. The Bersatu president said he had been asked to present himself at the MACC headquarters in Putrajaya at 11 a.m. In a post on his Facebook account, Tan Sri Muhyiddin also denied news reports that he was arrested by the graft buster while playing golf in Selangor on Wednesday and clarified that he had attended several meetings relating to Bersatu's annual General Assembly, which will begin this Friday. He did not mention in the posting on why he was summoned by the MACC. However, Bersatu Supreme Council member Muhammad Faiz Naaman had told the New Straits Times that Tan Sri Muhyiddin was called in to have his statement recorded. Earlier, an online portal had reported that the former Prime Minister was arrested while he was playing golf in Selangor and would face criminal charges on Thursday. Prior to this, the MACC had frozen Bersatu's account last month and charged several individuals, including former Bersatu Information Chief Datuk Wan Saiful Wan Jan and Segambut Bersatu Division Deputy Chief Adam Radlan Adam Muhammad with corruption in connection with the Jana Wibawa program, which was implemented during the time when Tan Sri Muhyiddin was Prime Minister. In the meantime, Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has stressed that his administration adopts a zero-tolerance approach towards abuse of power and corruption. The Prime Minister said that action will be taken against anyone who is found to have committed such criminal misconduct, regardless of their position or title.
We will uphold the highest ethical standards, and there will be no room for abuse of power under this administration. Any breaches will be severely dealt with. Whether you are Tun or Tan Sri, regardless, whether you are with this government or with the opposition, we will act without fear or favour.
He said this during his keynote address at Invest Malaysia 2023 in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday. Datuk Sri Anwar, who was also Finance Minister, further said that good corporate governance must remain the basis on which businesses, companies and shareholders operate, and it is also necessary to ensure that good governance provides robust safeguards for investor protection and the stability of the financial and capital markets. The government will stop channeling subsidies to certain industries as a way of shifting towards a more sustainable approach. Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli said they will instead advise and work together with the industries on structural reform that could uplift competitiveness in the long run.
Unik kepada industri tertentu apabila dia ada mengalami kesukaran, dia akan memohon kepada kerajaan untuk beri pertimbangan khusus untuk suntik wang. Kalau biasa daripada dulu lagi ada kan. Cuma yang kita nak ubah ialah pendekatan itu.
Speaking to the media on the sidelines of Invest Malaysia 2023, Rafizi said the government has engaged with several industries and will proceed sector by sector for the betterment of the country. This, he said, includes advising industries to opt for alternative measures such as biomass. In the meantime, he said the government was open to discussions with all sectors and industries to work together with hopes that it could expedite economic growth. The government will refer the Political Financing Bill to the Parliamentary Select Committee, PSC, soon before it is tabled in the Dewan Rakyat. According to Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman said the move would allow members of Parliament and other stakeholders to provide feedback on the proposed legislation.
Kita akan rujuk kepada select committee seperti yang telah dibincangkan. Saya rasa Tuan Yang di-Pertua akan membuat announcement kepada kewujudan jawatankuasa pemilihan dan Akta Perdana Politik akan di-refer kepada salah satu pada jawatankuasa tersebut. Terima kasih.
She said this during her winding-up speech on the 2023 budget in the Dewan Rakyat on Wednesday. She added that the government will also take into account current practices and legislation to address issues relating to political funding, including the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act, Election Offences Act, Subsidies Act and Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act. Meanwhile, Datuk Seri Azalina told the Dewan Rakyat that the government has approved the principle to amend 3 acts related to sexual offences against children to ensure justice for child victims and witnesses. The minister said the matter involving the Sexual Offences Against Children Act, Evidence of Child Witness Act and Evidence Act were approved on February 24th.
Antara cadangan pindaan yang dibuat adalah memperkenalkan langkah tambahan mesra kanak-kanak untuk melindungi mangsa kanak-kanak, mewujudkan kesalahan-kesalahan baru dan memperuntukkan pampasan kepada mangsa kanak-kanak.
She added that the amendments are to be carried out in 2 phases, with the first phase comprising 3 proposed amendments to be implemented in this session, while the second phase will be implemented in the next Parliament session. Datuk Seri Azalina also explained that the proposed reform is intended to prevent child victims or witnesses from having to go through a lengthy, repetitive judicial process and a child-unfriendly justice system, thereby suffering long-term trauma.
Efforts to thrive in the digital age, expanding the connections between people, organizations and machinery. The digital economy, a critical component of national transformation. A new driver of development. MDEC CEO Mahathir Aziz speaks to Money Matters on what's driving digitalization nationwide. This Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
Back to the Buletin. Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim has called for a clear change to be made to increase the participation of women in top-level decision-making positions in the private sector, including at government-linked companies, GLCs, and government investment-linked companies, GLICs. The Prime Minister said this was important as, according to a report from the Securities Commission Malaysia, women made up only 29% of board members of companies in the private sector as of December 31st, 2022. Speaking while officiating at the International Women's Day 2023 celebration in Kuala Lumpur on Wednesday, Datuk Seri Anwar said at the government sector, women participation at the top level had increased, but there was still room for improvement. He noted that in the public sector, the number of women civil servants at the decision-making level on top grade C and above has increased to 38.8%. Meanwhile, in the political sector, although the 15th general election results show that the percentage of women members of parliament dropped from 14.9% in 2021 to 13.5% in 2022, there was an increase in women candidates. In this connection, Datuk Seri Anwar said private companies should pay attention to this required change by giving opportunities for new appointments or promotions at the decision-making level to qualified women.
Jadi saya mahu semua GLC dan GLIC ambil perhatian. Semua pelantikan baru, GLC, GLIC dan juga peluang-peluang kenaikan pangkat. Saya mahu suatu perubahan, tentunya gradual dan tentu yang punya kelayakan, tetapi mesti ada kemajuan nyata supaya kita tingkatkan peranan wanita.
The Prime Minister also proposed that the number of women senators be increased. On the I Sayang initiative introduced by the Employees Provident Fund, EPF, the Prime Minister said there was a need to urge heads of government departments, GLCs and GLICs to ensure their workers make their share of contributions to the EPF accounts of their wives. I Sayang is an initiative to enable husbands to voluntarily transfer 2% of their EPF contributions to their wives' accounts.
Apa jenis suami nak tambah sedikit sumbangan pun jadi masalah. Ya. Jadi saya harap terutama suami-suami di kalangan pejabat awam, pimpinan politik, kita akan senaraikan siapa yang enggan.
Also present at the ceremony were Datuk Seri Anwar's wife, Datuk Seri Dr. Wan Azizah Wan Ismail, Women, Family and Community Development Minister Datuk Seri Nancy Shukri and Education Minister Fadlina Siddiq. The government is committed to assist Malaysians who fall victim to job scam syndicates abroad and bringing them home. Foreign Minister Datuk Seri Zamri Abdul Kadir said cooperation with various agencies and ministries will be enhanced further to address the issue.
Janganlah memandang bahawa seolah-olah kerajaan tidak melakukan apa-apa. Kerana pihak kerajaan tidak boleh nak menceritakan langkah-langkah yang dibuat secara terperinci, secara strategik, kerana ia melibatkan perkara yang sangat sensitif yang menyentuh tentang isu-isu keselamatan.
Datuk Seri Zamri said this after appearing as a guest on the Malaysia Hari Ini MHI program at Sri Pentas, Bandar Utama on Wednesday. So far, 418 victims have been successfully rescued in 4 countries involved, namely Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar and Thailand. 384 of them have safely returned home, while 34 are still in detention. Meanwhile, 166 Malaysians are still being traced. To prevent others from falling victim to such job scams, Datuk Seri Zamri said that the government will continue to carry out awareness campaigns and programs. He also pointed out that young people are more likely to be deceived by scam syndicates through social media, as they spent a lot of time online. He also advised people to be cautious of job opportunities offered on social media and to alert the Foreign Ministry if they encountered any suspicious job offers. The decision to grant exemption to UMNO in accordance with the Societies Act 1966, Act 832, regarding the party's election is applicable. Home Minister Datuk Seri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said Section 70 of the Act gave ministers the prerogative to make several exemptions. Nevertheless, Datuk Seri Saifuddin said that if UMNO members who brought the issue to the Registrar of Societies, ROS, before this were not satisfied with the decision, they could take it to court. He said that if the complainant is dissatisfied or alleged that the minister had overstepped his powers, then they could go through legal channels and due process.
Ianya bukan soal menteri secara peribadi membuat satu keputusan. Bila kita invoke perkara itu, pengecualian itu adalah berakhir tak arah kepada pengecualian kepada pematuhan Seksyen 13 dalam Akta Pertubuhan. Jadi, apa pilihan yang ada seterusnya? Jika sekiranya pengadu tidak berpuas hati, kalau dikatakan menteri melampaui batas kuasa dan sebagainya, avenue yang ada adalah dia boleh membawa. Dia mesti mengemukakan asas penyataan dan affidavit mengikut saluran undang-undang, due process. Dan kami akan diminta untuk menjawabnya. Kemudian mahkamah adalah saluran yang menetapkannya.
Earlier on Tuesday, Datuk Seri Saifuddin had confirmed that UMNO was given an exemption under Act 832 regarding the resolution for no contests for the posts of President and Deputy President passed during the party's 2022 General Assembly. Under Section 70 of the Act, the Minister might, at his discretion, in writing, exempt any society registered under the Act from all or any of the provisions of the said Act. When we come back, thousands rally across the globe. Do stay with us for the details. Welcome back. Still on Nightline. On the eve of International Women's Day, women were beginning to hit the streets en masse across the globe on Wednesday to defend rights that are under increasing attack. Capitals across the world hosted marches, rallies and demonstrations, while governments in several countries promised action to help improve the lot of half the world's population. Undeterred by the rain, a group of about 100 Indonesians rallied in an International Women's Day protest in Jakarta on Wednesday, urging the government for equal rights for women labourers, including those of domestic workers. In the Philippines and Thailand, hundreds of activists marked the day with a protest in front of the country's parliament to call for better employment conditions and good quality of life, including equal rights for female labour. Over in Spain, hundreds of women took to the streets of Barcelona on Tuesday night to celebrate Women's Day, where the build-up to the annual Women's March comes, amid a political spat inside the country's ruling coalition over which of the two left-wing parties best represents the feminist cause in an election year, where Spain's right will try to reclaim power. United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres previously said women's rights are being abused, threatened and violated around the world, saying gender equality would take another 3 centuries to achieve. For instance, universities in Afghanistan reopened after a winter break, but only men returned to classes, with the Taliban authorities' ban on women in higher education still in force some 18 months after they seized power. Israeli troops on Tuesday killed 6 Palestinians in Jenin, including one alleged of killing 2 Israelis in the latest deadly raid in a surge of violence in the occupied West Bank. The Palestinian Health Ministry said that 6 Palestinians were killed in clashes that the army said included soldiers launching shoulder-fired rockets amid ferocious gunfire. It was believed that the Israeli troops entered the camp and surrounded a house as a group of Palestinians fought back. The Zionist regime claimed that one of the Palestinian men they killed was behind the shooting of 2 brothers from an illegal settlement near the Palestinian village of Huwara last week. Their killings have led Jewish settlers to rampage through the town in one of the worst such acts in years. Over in Georgia, 66 demonstrators were detained and dozens of police injured after violent clashes broke out in the capital, Tbilisi, against the government's plans to introduce controversial foreign agent legislation. Authorities on Wednesday said the demonstrations broke out on late Tuesday after lawmakers in the ex-Soviet Caucasus country gave its initial backing to a draft law on foreign agents, which critics said represents an authoritarian shift. The law, backed by the ruling Georgian Dream Party, would require any organisation receiving more than 20% of their funding from overseas to register as foreign agents or face substantial fines. Meanwhile, the United States Embassy in Georgia has described the legislation as Kremlin-inspired, saying it contradicted the country's aspirations to join the European Union. Georgian President Saloma Zurabishvili, who wants to veto the law if it crosses her desk, said she was on the side of the protesters. At least 15 people were killed and several others injured in an explosion outside an office building in Bangladesh's capital, Dhaka, on Tuesday. According to authorities, the explosion shook the 4th and 5th floors of a 5-story building in Gulistan, a major hub for wholesale goods in the capital. It added that more than 100 people were treated for head wounds, fractures and other injuries at a hospital. The death toll is expected to rise as rescue operations are ongoing. It was not immediately clear what caused the explosion, but some reports stated that the blast happened from accumulated gas. We're back with sports news now. Football, the 2023 FA Cup. 2 first-round matches took place on Wednesday night. Kedah Darul Aman FC was sent packing for home after Penang FC claimed a 4-3 win on penalties. Both teams were tied to a 2-2 draw after normal and extra times. In Ipoh, 3-time champions Sri Pahang FC booked their berth in the second round following a 2-1 win over Perak FC. Sri Pahang will next place Selangor FC in the second round. Moving on to basketball, the NBA. The Los Angeles Lakers moved into 9th place in the Western Conference with a 112-103 victory over the Memphis Grizzlies. Anthony Davis had 30 points and 22 rebounds, while Dennis Schroeder added 17 points and 9 assists for the Lakers. Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves scored 17 points apiece in the 6th win in 8 games for the Lakers, who are surging since the trade deadline, despite missing LeBron James and D'Angelo Russell to injury. Davis turned in a superstar performance against the Grizzlies, hitting 11 of his 17 shots and repeatedly making big plays down the stretch. Jaren Jackson led the charge for the Grizzlies, scoring 26 points, while Tyus Jones had 16. The defeat saw the Grizzlies drop to 0-2 without Ja Morant, with their 3rd straight loss overall. Morant missed his 2nd straight game after the Memphis superstar allegedly flaunted a gun on social media last weekend. Coming up after this short break, Bundang MP gets 2-day rest. Stay tuned. Welcome back, still on Nightline. Malaysia is open to proposals aimed at reviving the Kuala Lumpur-Singapore high-speed rail HSR project as long as it is not funded by the government. Transport Minister Anthony Loke said that the government welcomes any proposal from the private sector to continue the mega project, as indicated by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim prior to this. However, as of now, Loke said the government has yet to receive any specific or complete proposals from the private sector, and there is no timeline to complete the project because the agreement has been cancelled by the previous administration. On January 1st, 2021, Malaysia and Singapore jointly announced the termination of the HSR project as both countries failed to reach an agreement on changes proposed by Malaysia before the project agreement lapsed on December 31st, 2020. The 350-kilometre rail project was supposed to be completed in 2026 and would shorten travel time between Kuala Lumpur and the Island Republic to just 90 minutes. Bundang MP Dato' Awang Solahuddin Hashim was told to leave the Dewan Rakyat for his repeated interruptions of Economy Minister Rafizi Ramli's winding-up speech on the 2023 budget. The suspension issued by Dewan Rakyat Speaker Datuk Johari Abdul will be for 2 days. During the Dewan Rakyat proceeding, the Perikatan Nasional member had ignored Datuk Johari's orders to remain seated and silent following several warnings for repeatedly disrupting Rafizi's speech. A commotion ensued when Rafizi called Dato' Awang a clown.
Pendang kalau nak jadi badut boleh cari menteri yang lain berucap, bukan masa saya. Saya ada benda yang penting saya nak sebut. Ni sangka jahat, badut.
Pendang, saya rehatkan pendang untuk 2 hari. Out now.
However, Rafizi then retracted the comment under Datuk Johari's instruction.
Saya tarik balik pendang sebagai badut.
Tarik balik, settle. Pendang 2 hari. Out. Out. Pendang 2 hari. Hari ini dan besok. Pendang 2 hari. Silakan Menteri.
Tuan Dipertua, ini tidak adil kepada
saya
pendang.
kata
Keluarlah pendang. Pendang keluar. Minum kopi kat luar. Sampai besok. Minum kopi sampai besok. Pendang. Selamat berehat pendang.
Oi, siapa lagi yang nak ni, Pak Gun? Nak persoalkan apa? Saya dah sebut awal.
Chill. Tadi
yang berobat duduk. Yang berobat duduk sekejap. Duduk sekejap. Duduk.
Bagilah
yang berobat duduk sekejap. Saya kata kalau menteri tidak beri jawab bagi masa dan juga tempat, pendang jangan bangkit. Saya dah bagi kata jangan bangkit sebab menteri dah tak bagi. Dia bangkit juga. Saya bagi berkali-kali. Saya berkata 1, 2. Dia duduk sekejap. Dia bangkit lagi. Sekarang berapa kali. Saya dilihat tidak boleh mengawal Dewan.
The Royal Malaysian Police, PDRM, had opened 2 investigation papers in relation to an article titled Secrets of Malaysian Corporate Mafia, Victor Chin Boon Long, Manipulating Enforcement Exposed, which was published several days ago. Its secretary, Datuk Nur Syah Muhammad Saaduddin, said the Commercial Crime Investigation Department, CCID, had received a police report in connection with the article on May 25th last year, and authorities had launched investigations to look into the abuse of funds and embezzlement allegations. In a statement on Wednesday, Datuk Nur Syah said it was stated in the report that there was misconduct and financial irregularities involving funds amounting to approximately 30.7 million ringgit in the management of Kaylee Sendirian Berhad. She added that the case is being investigated under the Penal Code for criminal breach of trust by an agent and for disappearance of evidence about an offence committed or giving false information about an offence to avoid punishment. She also said that the case had been referred to the Attorney General's chambers on February 27th for a decision and further instructions. On March 4th, a portal published an article about a group of individuals attempting to hijack a public listed company, Kaylee Holdings, and another company. The tussle resulted in a drop in share prices, and it was also claimed that it involved enforcement agencies, investigations, arrests and freezing of accounts of the company's board of directors. This time around, with that, we take a look at visuals of people in India celebrating the festival of Holi, or also known as the Hindu Festival of Colours, that marks the arrival of spring. With that, I'm Anita. Thank you for watching and be well, Malaysia.